There we go. Okay, now I can hear you.
All right, how's it going?
It's going, that's for sure. It
Cool.
is.
So, how do you want me to open your YouTube? I don't even know. Can I do that on Twitch? I don't even know.
What do you mean?
Because I'm streaming on Twitch right now. I don't know if I
Right.
can open a YouTube stream on Twitch.
Uh,
Actually, no. Well, I'll just be safe about it. That's all right. Nice to talk to you again, man.
yeah. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think a month ago or so.
Yeah, it was. You were, I think, our third guest.
Hmm.
It was. It was the one that I was so excited for it. I was like, oh my god.
All right, let me. I'll at least. I'll copy the link here, and then if anyone wants to watch on your stream too. Uh, see, copy. All right.
My camera doesn't want to work, which sucks.
All right. So for everyone else out here who doesn't know, this is my friend Finn. He's a personal trainer. I hopped on his podcast with him and his friend a year and a half ago or so, just to just talk. They asked me a bunch of good questions. We got into some life advice, stuff like that. So yeah, it was a good conversation. He's also a big CS:GO fan.
Huge. It's it's the only esport that I would follow if I had to choose one.
And Dota, right?
Dota's amazing, but hey, CS is where it's at.
Yeah, CS is like one of the first that I've ever gotten into watching as well.
It just really doesn't get much better.
I can't bring myself to learn Dota. I just can't do it.
I feel like you'd be really really good at Dota.
Why is that?
I think, and this sounds
I mean,
stupid.
you don't have to toot my horn like you blow me me up.
No, no, no.
Why do you think I'd be good at Dota?
No, I think this sounds stupid, but like I think because there's more items. God, I need my camera to work. Because there's more items, like, and all of the items do so many different things. I think you would actually see a lot of success there.
It's more like a knowledge-based game.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That and there's just a lot more outs if you end up doing poorly when it comes to the actual rotations and gameplay.
True.
But yeah, so it's been a while. You've been pretty busy in the year and a half, 2 years since we've talked last.
Yeah. Some would say probably doing a little too much, but
I feel that. Sometimes when you put too much on your plate, things can kind of either start to implode or just a lot of different things.
yeah. What I've found is since I have pretty bad ADHD too, like
Mm.
I will start doing everything like kind of halfway, which makes it challenging for sure to finish projects, which is why I end up taking on so many projects.
Yeah, I'm definitely that way too. It's it's not
Yeah.
easy sometimes. You know, you're all like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is great." You get going, you're like halfway through, something shiny catches your eye, and you're like, "Oh, let me look into that." And then as you go along, you just lose sight of the other thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so for those in my community that weren't around when Dr. Tsai was last on, he is the coolest person to ever exist. He's he's so sick. It's not even funny. Like because you're an army vet.
Yep.
You've seen combat.
Yep.
You
A bit.
you went to school as a non-traditional student. Got a doctorate in physical therapy.
Yeah.
And opened up your own clinic. You work with how many esports orgs?
I have worked with, I mean, like actually long-term relationships with, like in terms of seeing them every week, I've worked with 3. So
Okay.
100 Thieves, Cloud9, EG. But I have worked in passing with players from probably 3 or 4 other orgs. So like, T1, TSM, Golden Guardians, Dignitas, um, some of the smaller orgs as well, like SOAR. Yeah.
It's just so many. And like,
Yeah.
you list off these names and people from God, almost any esport can hear that, and they're all like, "Oh, I know them." What?
There's a lot of orgs and a lot of games.
And you mostly work with them because you live in the Los Angeles area, right?
Correct.
Okay, which I mean could be, I'm pretty sure, like a 50-mile radius.
Try like 10 or 15.
It's so big.
Yeah.
Like I live in Omaha, Nebraska, and I live downtown. I could literally see where the College World Series happens from my window.
Jeez.
But like, I also work in Omaha, 5 miles away. But it's not quite Omaha, but it is Omaha. It's a whole weird thing. But then there's
I mean, if you think about LA proper, like LA sprawl is like 30-mile radius, probably 40-mile radius. It's huge. I mean, no, that's wrong. I want to say like 20-mile radius. So diameter wise, it'd be like 50 miles, 60 miles. It's huge. And then also because of traffic, right? Like if you're on the west side of LA where I am, Santa Monica, and I'm trying to drive to Koreatown, it's 12 and a half, 13 miles away. When there's traffic, it's an hour and a half to go through. I could run that, in 13, like I could run it faster than that. It's ridiculous. So yeah, it's just a very different place, I think.
Yeah, and so living there, you're very involved with Riot Games and the LCS. Not Riot specifically, but like.
Well, yeah, I mean, most of the games I work with, players in those games are all Riot affiliated games. So Valorant, League of Legends is my primary focus. I've worked with a lot of CS:GO players. I've worked with some players that you know pretty well. Actually, I saw Tim today, Automatic.
No.
Yeah, so I went over to check him out for something. But yeah, he's playing with EG now too, so it's good. And yeah, I've met a lot of really cool people, a lot of big names, that I was fans of growing up. Like, it was kind of cool to be integrated into a scene like that, where it's like there's a whole element of like some starstruckness, but not really, because at the same time you meet them, you're like, man, these guys are just like regular gamers like me. Like they just enjoy playing the game. They just happen to be really good at it.
I think it's crazy because like the time that I spent with college athletes was kind of the same in a sense, where it's like they're just regular college students. They just so happen to be really, really good at hitting people, on the football field.
For sure.
And like, and when I had on one of my friends, who's in the NFL right now, Dylan Sainer, on one of the couple of times I had him on, I can't remember if it was the 5.5-hour episode or
wow,
or another one, but he was telling us stories about how Iowa State's last quarterback like got his shot, and how super quiet Christian kid never had completed a forward pass, and then suddenly they get him put into the game. Halftime, he's like banging on lockers, swearing at everybody, telling them to get their asses up. It's like, dude, like they go from being this normal everyday person to suddenly it's like just the person that people look up to, basically.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so like you work with high level athletes, right? Mostly, or
for the most part, right now, because I have to wind down my business due to legal reasons, which sucks. But right now, I mostly work with high school trans athletes.
Okay.
And I tell them every time, I'm like, this is a learning experience for both of us. We gotta work together to figure out what works.
That's a very niche market.
It is, but it's also been it was definitely my most successful.
Yeah. I mean, that's especially right now. There's a lot of controversy around all that stuff. Especially in terms when it comes to like people claiming competitive advantage, disadvantage, all that stuff. It's a lot of talk about it, especially right now.
And I remember when the Olympics were coming up, which I ended up deleting that DM just because I'm all like, I feel like the wording on that was bad. Um,
Hmm.
but you know, the male to female Olympic weightlifter,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I don't know how they ended up doing, whether she
Well,
won or
they clearly didn't win, right? Because otherwise that would have been a huge story,
yeah, I feel like it would have had to have
right?
been.
But it always, you know what it is though. To me, it seems a lot like that. The anti-trans athlete movement is really, really spurred by the same people who are also highly motivated by sexism in general. Like, because
Mhm.
they never ever complain about a female to male. It's always going to be male to female. So there's an
Right,
inherent assumption that males are better than females.
right.
Like, that's the only argument they have. Males are better than females. Therefore, if they switch to females, it's cheating.
Mhm.
Like,
And
and yeah,
I feel like a good example of that would be the female swimmer from Penn,
mhm.
um, who you know won. I think it was a single event, and then placed. I think it was like top 10 in another one, and everybody was all like, "Oh my God, look, they beat an Olympic silver medalist," and it's like, okay, but they didn't get as good of a time as the Olympic silver medalist did when she got her
Mhm.
silver medal.
Mhm.
So like, what's your point? It seems like she had an off day. You know, and they were, and then people were trying to make the argument like, oh, well, you know, she has this advantage. She went from being a horrible swimmer to being one of the best. It's like, no, she was a good swimmer in the event that she did well in. You
Yeah.
know, but they don't actually take the time to like look. They don't want to actually understand what's going on. They just want to be mad.
Yeah. I mean, everyone just wants to be mad about something. Like, it doesn't even affect you. If you're not,
Right, right.
one, you're not a trans athlete, and two, you're not even competing. Why do you care?
Exactly. Exactly. And at the same time, why should these trans athletes have less of a right to compete, in my opinion?
Right. Right.
You know, it's like gay marriage was codified today by the House, so now it goes to
Yeah.
Biden's desk. And there was a representative from I think it was Missouri, because of course it's
Mhm.
Missouri, who was literally crying on the House floor because she was all like, you know, I ask that that Congress does the right thing and protects what God says a marriage truly is, and it's like this doesn't affect you at all.
Right. Right. You care the most when it doesn't affect you at all. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Um,
Bill Burr.
I Yeah,
No,
I was gonna
no.
say we're seeing a lot of this even in esports right now, right? Like in gaming, where there's much less of a clear delineation between male female in terms of performance, right? It's not like because a male is genetically going to have more muscle mass, it's a huge advantage. Like
Hmm,
there's no reason to think that having muscle mass makes you better at gaming.
right.
Otherwise, I'd be freaking high elo, and in fact, I suck. So, like, what is the genetic advantage of being male in gaming?
Right.
And
Exactly.
what they always revert to is, oh, males have slightly faster reaction times, which is true. And I've done some research into this because I was curious when all this stuff came up last year. This is not the first time, obviously, but when it all came
Mhm.
up last year, I was like, I'm kind of interested. I'm going to do some research. So I read a whole bunch of research articles, looked at a bunch of systematic reviews, and statistically across the board, males between the ages of like 18 to 30 do have slightly faster reaction times than females do. But the difference is negligible when you take into account that it takes 60 milliseconds for any, or 60, yeah, milliseconds for anything to translate from your brain to your any part of your body, right? To actually click the mouse. It takes 60 milliseconds. The difference between male and female is like 20 milliseconds.
Huh.
Like, that's negligible. Like, the amount of time it takes for you to think to click your finger is triple the difference.
That is that is insane. And you add in the fact, I mean, where does reaction time matter the most? What kind of games?
Not many, actually, right? When you think about high level esports, we think of it, like, let's say shooters, right? People like
Mhm.
FPS games tend to have the greatest need for reaction timing.
Right.
Sure, but when you look at an FPS game at a high level, they are not generally trying to react to things. They're trying to anticipate. They're trying to, like I was just practicing even. They're trying to set angles and cut in to, and their crosshair placement is already aligned to where they expect the enemy to be.
Mm.
They're not walking into a room staring blind and then transitioning to whatever they see, you know?
Right, right.
So
And your
yeah,
reaction time is always faster when you're expecting something to happen.
exactly. And then in the same vein, if reaction time is really that important, why in CS:GO do we see such a high percentage of players at such an older age now?
Yeah. Forrest, get
Like,
right.
yeah,
I mean,
like even simple, right? Like he was what, 25, 26?
yeah, he's getting up
Like
there.
back, man, 10 years ago, people would say, oh, he's about to retire. Like it's insane, right? But like I would say that, you know, we've seen Hiko, you know, is playing it professional Valorant into like 32, 33.
Yeah.
Like all these guys have been playing at such a high level into their 30s when you would say, I mean, there's a for sure statistical drop off between 20 and 30
Mhm.
in terms of reaction time. The difference between a male at 20 to 30 is far greater than a difference between male and female at any other age range.
Right.
So why is it that a male at 31 is still able to compete against an 18-year-old, but somehow women cannot? Like it makes absolutely no sense.
that when you put it like that, that's the absolute dumbest thing ever. Like,
Yeah, it makes zero sense. Like there's no physiological reason why a female cannot play games as well as a male. Like I can argue a female will never run as fast as the fastest male. Or a female
right,
will never run or will never lift as much weight as the strongest male. Of
right.
course, there's physiologic differences there that make it so that they can't do that. But when it comes to gaming, I mean, what when you think about who the best gamers in the world are at any game, what is it that they have? It's not that they're stronger, faster, or anything, right? They understand the game to a greater degree.
Right. No, exactly.
And like the biggest comparison I like to make is STEM, right? Can you believe that 50 years ago, women were not allowed to be scientists? Like, basically, you know, they were prohibited from going to a lot of universities in a lot of places.
Yeah.
And then or I guess nowadays, probably more like 100 years ago. But when you think about, well, nowadays, what do you see in STEM? The preponderance is actually massively skewed towards women. There
Mhm.
are far more female researchers now than male. There's far more female doctors are coming into the actual like med schools and all that stuff. When I was in PT school, my class was 65% women or 70% women. Like higher education should be gate kept by intelligence generally. And if there's such a high preponderance of women entering higher education, by higher education, I don't mean college, I mean postgraduate.
Mhm.
Uh, what does that say? Oh, well, maybe women are just as smart, if not smarter than men. And if we're thinking about gaming as an intellectual pursuit, right, the smartest player generally wins. The people who understand the game the best generally win. And the actual mechanical ability is negligible basically across the board at the highest level. I mean, there's absolutely no reason why we won't see female athletes get to the exact same or higher standard than the male athletes. They just need the opportunity to do so. And I think
Right.
that's been the big issue. They don't get that opportunity.
Right. And it's crazy when you think about all of it, because at the end of the day, what's the thing keeping people from, realizing how dumb they are?
I mean, this is a much greater discussion though. You're talking about like changing societal expectation and norms.
Exactly. I think it's because guys have just been allowed to play video games forever, so it's normal for them to play, Valorant for 14 hours a day, be hard stuck silver,
Yeah.
but then a girl does it and suddenly it's completely different. Until you get in game, in which case everybody either loves her or hates her. There's
Yeah.
no in between.
Yeah.
which, which is so stupid. One of my favorite Dota videos ever is there was I think it was a Southeast Asian server game, and suddenly this girl comes on to the VC and she asks for wards, and you just hear another guy scream because he heard a girl. He like freaks out, and apparently he started playing way better.
Okay, well,
Like it wasn't like one of those like
no, it goes one of two ways, right? Like you either like get motivated for whatever reason, like, hey, I need to impress this person,
mhm.
or you freak out because you're a sexist asshole and you start running it down. I've seen both, right? I've seen
Yeah.
both.
Oh yeah.
I've always called it out in game when people are like trying to. I mean, I've seen, like I was playing bot lane in League, right? And I had a support who was playing Lux or something, and like one of my teammates just started flaming her for like she missed a Q, whatever. It happens, right? It happens at the pro level.
Mm.
But he just started going off and talking about how, oh, you're garbage because you're a woman. Like you're good though, unlucky team diff because we got a woman on our team. I'm like, dude, what is wrong with you? I was like, your jungling is garbage because you're fucking 3 levels down. But I mean, how are you just gonna go off on someone like that because they're playing a female champion? I don't even think her name was that female. I mean, it ends up she ended up being female because like we kind of chatted in the lobby after, but like her name was something pretty generic, and she was just playing a female spellcaster in a video game in a support role. So you just assume she's a woman.
Mm.
It was crazy. I actually think I know you're not a huge Valorant fan because it's going to kill CS:GO, but
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
But Valorant is a scene in which women are, I think, much more likely to do well because as a scene from the get-go, Riot's really, really supporting, highlighting, and promoting women in the space.
Mm.
I know more female Valorant creators than almost any other game. I
The
mean, I know a
game-
lot
the
of League
Game
of Legends,
Changers.
obviously.
I love watching the Game
Game
Changers.
Oh my
series.
god, that whole event was so good.
C9 White
And-
is my jam. I love C9
Oh
White.
yeah, and the greatest storyline was they lost.
Mhm.
Right? They lost to another female team who was also playing at an insanely high level. So, I mean, it's just really nice to see women competing at a tier 1 level. I think that I've been saying this for a long time, but I'm going to reiterate. I'll put it on record. Valorant is going to be the first game where we see women competing at the tier 1 level and actually being successful. Like I think Valorant's going to be the first game to have truly integrated teams competing at a high level. Like there was one trans woman who played in League of Legends way back, but not on a very good team, and they didn't do well. And unfortunately, and this is also highlighting why this is important. She ended up, I think, either allegedly committing suicide or she died very, very young.
Ooh, yes.
So, I mean, I don't know if it's officially ruled a suicide, but like you kind of put 2 and 2 together, right? Like there's a huge amount of evidence that trans individuals will all die before the age of 35. Like
It's like God, what is it, like 41% suicide rate?
It's very, very, very high. And why is that? It's because they're treated like shit by both sides almost.
Yeah.
And it's terrible. Like here's someone who got to the very highest level of a game that they clearly loved, was arguably successful, changed the world essentially by being one of the first female players to get there, and was flamed so hard that she couldn't stay doing it. Like she just couldn't do it. And yeah, it's really rough, and you hear stuff like that all the time, right? Like I think some scenes are better about it than others. Like there's a couple trans athletes in the StarCraft scene who are very, very good. Scarlet, I'm actually a huge Scarlet fan. She plays Zerg. She's nasty. But
what country is Scarlet from?
Canada.
Canada. Okay.
Yeah. And it's so clearly they can do it, right? Like StarCraft. Okay, now I'm going to get a little bit of bias here. StarCraft to me is the hardest esport in the world to become pro at. Like I'll put that out there.
I feel like there are harder. I feel like there are harder ones, but there aren't. But I feel like it's the hardest that is known to the level that it is. Like
there's comparisons of StarCraft to being like a grandmaster level chess player who also has mechanics.
I think with StarCraft, it would be easier if it was still a livelier scene.
Oh no, 100%. I'm talking like at its prime though.
No, yeah. Okay.
At its prime, right? At its peak, 10 or 15 years ago.
Sure.
Becoming a StarCraft pro was the hardest possible game to go like tier 1 in. Like it's so insanely hard. And the thing about StarCraft, just like in chess, if you are better than your opponent, you will win 99% of games against that opponent. Like it's so difficult to actually beat them. You know what I mean? Like if you're a higher elo in chess, you were just going to beat people below you almost every time. Like there's no challenge.
Yeah, when I was learning StarCraft, it was super difficult to win for like the first 2-3 months.
Mm-hmm.
It was so frustrating. I was so ready to quit. And then
Yeah.
I did quit, and now I'm happy.
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely love the game. It's not something I can play. I just like watching it.
Mhm.
Yasuke, yeah, when people say the difference in reflexes isn't that big, they never mention the actual data or the actual delta. Right. But again, like the comparison is if you take a 30-year-old compared to a 20-year-old, it's an even larger difference than between male female at both the same age, right? Both 18 or whatever. And there's been a lot of players. This is why I always highlight Valorant, because this is the first one where you're going to see that integration, because there are tier 1 players like Tens. He's come out and said like Mel from C9 White could play tier 1 with men if she wanted to. If she wanted to jump off of C9 and stop winning every single event, uh, she could
And having
totally
fun with
probably
friends and
playing with people she likes. She could probably play at a tier 1 level with men, like integrated. She's better than most of these players. And then everyone always likes to highlight, oh, but C9 White's never beaten a tier 2 men's team. I mean, there's a lot of factors there for sure, right? They've actually gotten very close to beating a bunch of tier 2 men's teams. If you look at Valorant as a whole, though, I mean, it's a hard game. Like, I'd like to see that happen eventually, but they're also coming from competing against a caliber of
that's
teams that is
lower.
not as good. Yeah, they're just not competing. So if they were only competing with men's teams, I guarantee they would climb. They would actually be better than they are. But this also highlights the inherent inadequacy or I guess unfairness of the esports scene, is that most men's teams won't even scrim them.
Mhm.
Like it's they just don't do it. They don't schedule scrims with them. They'd rather scrim other tier 1 men's teams.
Yeah,
So
it's like I'm still trying out for CS teams, trying to like join a team as an entry frag. But I can't find a team that'll take me, because when I do well is when I'm able to give information. When I don't do well is when I'm able to get a lot of kills, because I can't find anything, because these teams are bad where I'm able to get a lot of kills, because they just play really poorly. It's like, okay, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
They're like, well, you really didn't give us a whole lot. It's like, what was I supposed to give you? Oh, guy.
I mean, team. I mean, this comes down to a different issue of like, teams are not very good at scouting, and that's across the board, almost universally. Some teams are. You see teams like Astralis, right, or other teams that have very established systems in place. They're pretty good about finding players and plugging them in.
I mean, Astralis is a bad example just because, and I don't know how much you know about Astralis, but like they were player founded, and so they already had that foundation, and then they brought in a total of 2 people when they were in like their prime era, and then so I mean, well, like I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Like FaZe actually did a pretty good job.
Oh yeah, the
FaZe did a really good job
twice. Yeah. They did a really good job twice.
Yeah. They're kind of good now. They're kind of good now with the finding, what's his name, that young kid, Brawley or I forget what it's some 18-year-old they signed. He's actually insane. Yasuke, actually, that's a really good point. Gen Pop average top tier athletes are different. We need more data on top tier esports players. We don't have it. And I say esports players because I don't think they're the same as athletes.
Right, because like athletes have ways to get around stuff like that.
I think they're very different. I think that the best esports players in the world are a different build than the best athletes in the world.
Like baseball. I mean, look at baseball.
Yeah.
That's a sport where quite literally if you're facing a good pitcher as a batter, you will not see the baseball coming. You physically cannot. And so the way that they react is by watching the shoulder. That's why baseball players can't hit off of a softball pitcher. Jenny Finch, legendary softball pitcher, literally put Albert Pujols on his ass. And he's a Hall of Famer, But then, but then you put him up against a baseball pitcher, his reaction time doesn't matter. he has this down to a science. Essentially, he sees the
Yeah.
elbow, he sees the shoulder do what he wants it to do, and then he hits the ball.
Mhm.
You know, and
There's I love women in getting. I do too. Yeah.
and
So I mean, we can go back to the point about women and climbing and all that, though, right? If you do a percent, I wish I had numbers to actually back this up because I don't know if there's a ton of data out there, but what percentage of the ladder is high elo, right? And then if you broke that down by gender, I wonder if the distribution would be relatively the same
I
because
don't think it is. Last I
well,
knew.
the really like league specifically, right?
Oh, I have
I mean,
no clue about that
oh,
game.
okay, because my obviously my impression's a little bit skewed because I know so many of these high elo women,
Mhm,
like kind of personally, so it feels like there's a lot of them, and I
mhm.
know a ton of guys who are high elo, obviously too, but I also don't know that many women in general who play consistently and not are actually trying to grind to become better because I think
Right.
that's a major difference too. There's a lot of either societal or like the nature of the environment that they're in
Mhm.
makes it so that they don't think they can go pro, so they're not really playing the game to go pro. They're playing the game to maybe get better, but to like stream or to just have fun with it, or
Right, right.
just to practice. But like there's a higher percentage of men in the game who think maybe I could go pro. I know a ton of players who are like diamond plus,
Mm,
and they really aspire one day to potentially go pro.
right.
Whereas a lot of diamond players I know that are female, like they don't ever see a shot at it, so they're never going to try to push to like GM plus, like challenger. They're looking at the game as like, well, it's content creation. I'm diamond, and I can just play at this level, and I'm going to get a lot of viewers. I could just stay here.
Mm,
And I don't think it's because they're women. I think it's because there's no female pros.
which would make sense. That would make a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
Dota recently created, I say recently, I think it was like a year and a half ago, maybe even longer. I just found it a year and a half ago. Dota created something called the Dota Valkyries series,
Mm.
where
Mhm.
it's just female teams that all female teams, and because of that, most of the people in Dota that I follow now are either from North America or are female.
Yeah.
it's
I
it's
mean,
it's really funny, but it's like, man.
there's what's I gonna say about that? Yeah, I mean, if you compare like even in traditional, we go back to traditional sports too, right? Like
Mm,
there's obviously not I guess a gender sex difference between competitiveness.
right.
Like I've seen a lot of guys suggest that, oh, women are just less competitive. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Have you ever seen any high level female sports, right? They're just what, not actually competitive. Like we've seen more women go into sports in the last 10 years, 20 years than a lot of guys now. All right.
Right.
Like every girl I know has played like soccer or softball or volleyball or basketball. Like there's just as many female athletes out there in traditional sports. Why the hell would they not play video games at the same level? Oh, because there are no female pro leagues. Like
Mhm.
there's no money in it. There's no like representation of them on a pro level. So if you don't have that infrastructure in place, of course nobody's going to pursue it.
Right. I mean, just in the past couple of years, like I'm a huge volleyball fan, right?
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
remember that.
I actually cried today because of volleyball. It was not a good day.
Oh no.
Yeah, Nebraska lost. It was what
Sorry to hear that.
wasn't fun, but hey, you know what? It's been a rough last like 3 4 years. So
Mhm.
hey, we made it to the Sweet 16. That's all that matters.
Yeah, yeah.
But volleyball was kind of seeing a decline for basketball or cross country or whatever sport kind of coincides with whenever your high school plays volleyball. But then the last like 3 or so years, volleyball's been on the rise, and it's because suddenly in America there's a volleyball pro league,
Mhm.
and like they don't get paid a whole lot, but I don't think that they expect to,
No.
and like it's crazy because you wouldn't expect that, but it's exactly what you said. You wouldn't expect the change to be so sudden, but like it's exactly what you said. People see representation and they go, I can do that. That can be me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really so again going back to Valorant too. They're setting up these systems for one, not just female and male, but like anyone has a potential path to go pro now in Valorant. They have a challenger series. You put a team together. If you happen to just be that cracked, you can basically win out a tournament, and you get put into an actual tournament with tier 1 teams.
Oh,
And they actually also have an integration with game changers as well. So there's
really?
potentially going to be interaction between the pro leagues. That's what they really want. That the whole purpose of game changers is not just to show women competing at a high level, it's to offer a realistic pathway for them to eventually maybe get picked up by a tier 1 integrated team, at the global level.
Huh.
So I really want to see it. Like I think there are more and more women who are actually joining that game specifically. Like I know so many streamers and all that who basically just love Valorant. And
Right.
what we've seen too is like they're playing at a very high level, and the game itself is not mechanically like it's not, you're not gate kept, right, by having to have insane APM or something like StarCraft. So the overall playability of the game is much more universal. Like almost anybody can play Valorant at some level.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I would say that unless you're really, really good, you're not going to be able to play StarCraft at any level. Like, you just can't.
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
but,
I speak from
yeah,
experience on that one.
yeah. But what's also interesting is females who make it to a high level in a game, right? They make it to, let's say, high elo, GM, challenger, whatever it is. They didn't get there by beating other female players.
By beating everybody.
They got there by beating everybody. And so where is the justification that, women are inherently worse than men at gaming, when enough women have gotten to that highest level that, well, clearly it's not just because they're, like female or male. It has to be, maybe it's just hard to get to that level for anybody.
Yeah. I mean, I think a good example of that is one of my favorite people in all of esports ever. I'm not a big Fortnite guy. I think it's fun to play every once in a while, casual game. But Fortnite was the game that like blew up the esports world, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember.
And it especially
the Drake Juju and then the World Cup thing. Yeah.
It blew up my favorite esports org, FaZe Clan. Ignoring the shitty things that they've done. I grew up watching FaZe Clan. I'm wearing a FaZe shirt right now. It's FaZe the fuck up forever over here. But FaZe Clan, back when the World Cup happened, as it happened, they signed not only the youngest player to ever join FaZe Clan, but also the first female player to ever join FaZe Clan. And that was Ewok. I love Ewok. And now Ewok is female to male trans. We talk like pretty regularly. Sorry to out you, Soleil, for talking to a nerd like me. But like more than anything, I just try to help kind of keep him grounded, because he's a 17-year-old boy. He's got all these big dreams in mind for the gym, and when they don't happen, I'm sure you understand. You tend to get a little bit frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Yeah,
but Ewok didn't get to that level by just beating other girl gamers. Ewok got there because they were just that good at the game.
Yeah.
You don't join FaZe Clan by accident.
No, I think we've seen it. Like in League, even they have game changers now too, where it's less. Oh, I actually don't understand. It's less like marketed than the Valorant. Game changer series is like. I actually saw a bunch of them when they came here. I just happened to be at Riot, and they did it like, okay, we're going to take all these women, we're going to give them private coaching with pro coaches at the LCS level and see how they do. They're trying to help them improve, but there's no marketing around it. There is no like, well, let's put them on a stage with other females and compete and all that stuff. There's just nothing. It was silence. I mean, they told me it was okay. It's partially because they want to preserve privacy, but it was also like, I mean, it's kind of weird. Like, why not put this on some sort of platform like you did with Valorant, which was so successful. Because no matter how many women are switching to Valorant now, I mean, League is just a bigger game. It's the biggest esport in the entire world, but an entire half of our population doesn't feel like they could ever compete at the top level in that.
That is weird because I mean, even just when you consider Riot's never marketed League of Legends, at
It's
least not in America.
it's very bizarre.
But
Yeah.
it's so much bigger than Valorant. They were pushing Valorant down my throat for like a year.
Mhm.
It was actually like genuinely annoying.
Yeah. I mean, my only thought is that League got so big already that they didn't feel like it was ROI positive to market it more. Like you're trying to get a 1% increase in your player base versus with Valorant, if you spend that much money, spend $10 million marketing it, you could maybe get a 30% increase in your player base.
God, I feel like you're probably right, but that's such a stupid way to think about it.
I agree. I agree.
Because because can you name a single esports org that you know is in the black every year?
No, I mean they're all like
I mean, FaZe Clan, Astralis, Cloud9, EG,
yeah,
they're losing money, but
they're
it's
all
not.
burning through money. Yeah.
But at the same time, they're all still functioning.
Hmm.
You know, like Riot. At the end of the day, it seems like they want to do something good with the League of Legends game changer, which I have not heard about. I might watch that just to you know make people mad when I say, oh yeah, I watch League of Legends. That's the women's thing. That's the women's MOBA, right? Uh, but like they're trying to do a good thing, but only if it makes them profit.
Right. That's the biggest issue. Like it's not, I mean, it's like every company, right? Every company is in
Yeah,
the end a company and it is about profit.
right.
But if you think long term, if you got a 40% increase to your player base, right? If we have 50% of the population is women and you got 20% of them to start playing your game, how much more money are you going to make?
Even if just half of those people spend
Right.
more money, that's more money that you weren't getting before.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. There's I forget who it was. There's some a business guru or economist. They were like, don't worry about dragging every nickel and dime out of every person. Worry about getting more people to give you a nickel and a dime. Right?
Exactly.
Like
Exactly. If one person gives you, you know, all 100 of their dollars, but you get 10 people to give you $10, you're still getting $100.
it's the same thing. Exactly. Exactly. And then it actually, and I've been, this is a big like proponent I've been of, wow, what am I saying? I've been a big proponent of basically looking at the long-term process of brand building, right? Like a lot of the work I do is free. I could
Mm,
charge people for a lot of what I do, and I do for certain things, but a lot of what I do is free. And the reason is that in the end, I'd rather have 10 people know who I am, and then one of them may come to me at some other point to pay me for a service than to charge each person for the money up front. And then basically you kind of get stuck, right? It's way
mm,
more important to get wide before you get really, really narrow and deep. And
exactly.
yeah, and I think Riot's done a great job getting wide, but now it's like, okay, well, why don't you expand to a completely untapped demographic right now that you have that wants to play your game? Like I know so many women who do play League of Legends, but it's like it's hard to play because
Mm.
everyone's so toxic in there, and there's no punishment for anything. Um,
Dota's the same way. Like the Dota
yeah,
player base has been declining, you know, hand over fist for years, and we're ignoring the million user peak of the Dota auto chess craze.
yeah.
Um, you know, it like
I mean,
Valve just has done nothing but lose money, and
Valve is worse than Riot in that Valve doesn't seem like they have a plan.
no, because they expect everybody else to do everything.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
have the international and that's it. But then they go and fuck up the international too.
yeah.
Like the international 10 had a prize pool of $40 million.
Jeez.
Just imagine the Team Spirit won the international 10. They won about $5 million each.
That's insane.
And like they won more than the entire prize pool for the international 11
Wow.
because Valve decided we're not going to take this golden goose that we have and feed it. Instead, we're going to kill it because it has to be made of gold itself. And so they're not putting out stuff that people want to see. And it's frustrating to the community. You know, I'm
sure.
much like Riot, where it's like they've got this opportunity, but they don't take it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because Dota loses players. It never truly gains players. It's on Steam. People are gonna find it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's not exactly as hidden as League of Legends, but like it loses players constantly because people just don't like what's going in. Whereas Riot has to find players, but they choose not to anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like, you know, from being in the league community, feels like all the attention and all the resource and all the effort has shifted to Valorant, and it's almost blatantly obvious, right? Like all the thoughts that you know, people have had in high elo league about how to fix the game, how to fix the community, they've applied to Valorant already.
Oh no!
They've applied everything to Valorant. Like everything that we wanted in the league community is already in Valorant now. Like voice comms, MMR is openly described so that you know how your rank is improving.
Wait,
Like there's
you guys still don't have voice comms?
No, League refuses to add voice comms. They say it's going to be too toxic, as if it could be any more toxic than it is.
Even Valve fixed that.
Yeah, yeah, it's absolutely insane.
Even Valve like has a solution to toxicity over voice chat.
I mean, one of the nicest things that Dota has that I saw is you can choose to never play with another player again.
Yep. So long as you have Dota Plus.
Okay. But see,
that's like $4 a month.
Yeah, but you could just, you know how many people, I would pay for that. I would pay for that to never see some of these people ever again in my life. Like in game.
Plus you get a lot of other benefits with Dota Plus. So
that's what I'm saying. It's so easy. This is such an easy marketing angle. My God, if League, like I said this in a tweet like way back a few months ago. I was like, if League had a subscription service where you pay $10 a month to play the game, but you're put into actual moderated queues where super toxic people or inters are just kicked out of the queue and they can't play with you anymore. You know how many people would pay that? Like to be permanently in an actual like lobby where nobody's just running it down and flaming and all this. Like it would be, you don't have to make it a free game anymore. I would pay for that because I love the game.
Dota also has a behavior score where the lower your behavior score gets, the lower your priority gets. So they give you what's called low priority queues where it's just toxic people.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. Keep them all with each other, you know, like it's always the people who like come in and ruin the game for 4 other people on your team. It sucks. Like I've been in so many games like that where like me and 3 other people are just trying our absolute best, working together, being super supportive, and one person just decides I'm having a bad day. I'm gonna straight run it down on you, and then I'm gonna flame you the whole game. Like, and then you have to sit through 40 minutes of that. Like, it makes no sense. It makes no sense. And then what happens is long term, that makes everybody toxic. Because you can only have that happen to you so many times in a row before you start doing things like, because you're already angry. You're like, man, screw this game, screw these people. I've been in that position where like I get ran down a couple of games in a row, and then the next game is theoretically winnable, but I'm already tilted. So, you know, I'm just not playing well, or I get more irritated by things I normally wouldn't actually care too much about, right? So I don't know. I think fixing toxicity should be a priority for all these companies.
Yeah.
And it just sucks that like a lot of the fixes theoretically that could work are being implemented in their new game, but not in their old one.
Yeah, I think in Valorant and CS:GO, there's only so much you can do when it comes to like fixing toxicity. Where like you can mute people. In CS, if somebody is getting reported too often for like voice comm abuse, they load into the match muted.
That's amazing. Love that.
And you can choose to unmute them. It's a mistake. Don't do it. The gamer word will come out. I got banned off of Twitch one time because somebody said
else?
And like
somebody else, that sucks.
That happens way too often in CS:GO, which like it's a Valve game. I expect it at this point.
Yeah.
But man, it's just it's just crazy, you know, because these are staples. They're old games, you know.
Hmm.
But hey, one last topic that I
Hmm.
wanted to get your opinion on. The Liver King got exposed.
Yeah, man. When you sent that to me, I was like, "What?" I know who the Liver King is,
Mhm.
but then I read all that. Like, of course. Like, look at him. Like,
Yeah, no, seriously.
there is no. I mean, I go through a lot because I know some people who are very much into the natural remedies for everything.
Mhm.
Ancestral knowledge, all that stuff. But like, dude, you look at that guy. There's no way he's not on roids. He has the HGH gut.
I mean,
Like,
there's that the fact that his nipples are pointed both down and sideways.
hmm,
Like,
yeah. He's
you
got
know,
gyno. He's got like,
and
yeah. Like he is the definition. Like anyone who's been around bodybuilding at all looks at
mhm.
him one glance. You're like, yeah, he's not natural.
The man looks like Ronnie Coleman did when he was natural. And Ronnie
Yeah,
Coleman is the absolute freakiest human to ever exist.
yeah. I mean,
Like,
debatable when was Ronnie Coleman ever natural, but
up until he was about 30, he's been pretty open about it.
really,
Yeah, yeah. He said that like up until the age of about 30, he was natural, and then he decided that, you know, he just couldn't keep competing and
I, I,
losing.
I'm still really skeptical though of that. Like you look at the mass that guy has, and you think about like, it just doesn't make sense that he would get to that level when everyone else is juicing and he's not.
See, but he wasn't winning at the open at like the IFBB Pro Open level.
Yeah, yeah. But even competing, right? Everyone else on that stage is juicing.
But I don't know. He's one of those that are just absolutely freaky because like obviously
I know, yeah.
Arnold is the goat. You know,
Right.
there's no question Arnold tops everybody. But then you look at Ronnie Coleman. He was the perfect combination of mass plus aesthetics. You know, nobody has done it better than him since him.
Yeah. But I mean, do you
And
think Arnold was clean?
oh no, Arnold talks about steroids all the time.
Oh yeah.
He,
That
he
was back in the day when it wasn't even a bad thing.
yeah,
If you were a
no,
bodybuilder, you did steroids.
no, there's no such thing as somebody who there's no such thing as an Olympian who's clean.
No, yeah, I mean that got exposed bad.
But
Yeah, like
the
with did you see that documentary? What was it
pumping
the one
iron.
about Russia? Yeah, no, the one about Russia. Icarus Falls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's I mean,
Oh.
they basically came out and said, yeah, not one Olympian at this level is clean.
Dude, but but you know, people see the Liver King, and I get a lot of people aren't around like the fitness space. They don't
Mhm.
know that, you know, that's not achievable. They see Dwayne Johnson talking about how he only took steroids one time when he was 18.
Nah, man, that guy is so huge.
And
There's
the
no
funny,
way.
Dwayne Johnson literally said that he tried it one time when he was like 18, got gyno from it, and never touched it again. It's like, well, first of all, how'd you get rid of the gyno?
Yeah, and
Where
that
are your
that's not
scars, man?
that's not how that works.
But like,
Yeah,
you know, unless you're
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
world's biggest hyper responder.
Yeah.
But like and I was fine with the Liver King until he comes out on a podcast and just outright says that he has never taken steroids. And I was like, oh, buddy, no, 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 no.
Yeah,
You just
and then
gave
you're
away the
pitching
game.
and you're pitching, an alternative lifestyle that isn't necessarily all bad, but you just completely like, someone I know, Sony, he's a Warcraft streamer,
Mm,
huge guy, really into, like, natural fitness, he's buff, he's huge,
sure,
but,
sure.
like, when you look at his body, very reasonably is natural, like, he doesn't
Mm,
look bloated and, like, he's just a buff guy who clearly
right,
trains really hard all the time.
right.
He had a tweet the other day, and he's like, "Man, the worst thing about this whole Liver King thing is that he's like completely devaluing those of us who like actually are trying to
Yeah,
pitch a healthy lifestyle." Like
yeah,
the message that he had wasn't bad, but now you've completely ruined it by claiming that you got this without any sort of assistance. And then guess what? It turns out you're on $10,000 a month worth of steroids.
yeah. It just ridiculous. And I think
Yeah.
I don't know why Plates for Dates decided to like make the video entirely.
Mhm.
And for those people that don't know, Derek from moreplates.moredates.com uh, has a YouTube channel, literally one of the best sources to go to when it comes to any kind of like supplementation, steroids, anything like that. Don't take steroids
Yeah.
unless you need to, because it's dangerous and will fuck you up.
Yeah.
But at
Yeah.
the end
I
of the
mean,
day, hey, your deal's your deal, right?
I've had a lot of friends who did a lot of steroids when I was in the military. And you go to the army, it's very, very common. But yeah, I agree. If you're not like, okay, I'm not going to tell someone not to ever do steroids, because I think
Mm,
at the end of the day, it's a decision you have to have. You have to
right,
understand the risks and
right,
consequences. You have to understand the effects.
right.
But if you are literally a competitive bodybuilder and you want to go IFBB pro, and you are maxing out your training and your diet
Hop on
and
it.
your recovery, and you need to get to that level, by all means, you need to take steroids because that's your goal.
But then you
Like
need to find a trainer, a coach,
yeah, you
and
need
you
to
need
find
to
a
find a
doctor.
doctor.
You need to do it the right way. And I know people who have done that, and it's fine by me. Like, you're doing it to the best of your ability. If that's your goal, that's the only way you're going to get there. But for the average person, like, a lot of the guys I've known who'd taken steroids, it was like to cut a corner where,
Mhm.
look, you've been training for less than 2 years. You're not making the gains you want yet, and you're not honestly doing that much in terms of dieting and like taking care of yourself. So you want to just cheat and basically jump to the level that it looks like you're, fitness model or whatever. And
Right.
a lot of them, it's like they won't get to the level of the Liver King, but they'll do a little bit. They'll
Mhm.
put on like 20 pounds of muscle and cut a bunch of fat. Like, they'll do
Right.
some wind wall or like whatever.
Right. They'll look more like a physique competitor than
Exactly.
uh,
But
uh
then what that does though is it creates this mental reliance and crutch on it, where
yeah.
every summer you're gonna cut. Oh, when you cut, what are you gonna do? You're gonna take some Winval, or you're gonna take a little bit of test, to boost that metabolism. And then, like,
Right.
it becomes this thing where you constantly feel like, even if you're in really good shape, that you're dependent on this stuff. And that's the worst thing about it. That's the most dangerous thing.
it's it's just crazy. And then you see somebody like the Liver King who and God, have you seen his apology?
Oh no, I didn't read it.
I made the mistake of watching the Joe Rogan podcast or listening
Oh
to
yeah,
it. I didn't watch
yeah,
it
yeah.
because he had Derek from moreplates.moredates.com on
Mhm.
there, and so I was like, okay, I need to know what they say about the Liver King, you
Yeah.
know. And so they start listening to his apology. They had to turn it off because it was so stupid. And basically, he goes like, you know, I lied. I fucked up. I did
Yeah.
this because of the 4,000 young men every day that kill
Oh
themselves. But
god.
and then
He
he
turned it into like he was doing the right thing or something.
and then he talks about, and it's like, okay, sure, you wanted to get big on social media because you wanted to spread a message of positivity. And
Yeah.
and he said that he wanted to spread this message through his lifestyle that he had been practicing and how he had felt good mentally. But then he goes, I started doing hormone replacement therapy because I wasn't feeling good physically or mentally. My guy, hold the
Jeez.
fuck on.
Yeah, go talk to a psychologist or something, like,
And, it,
jeez.
and it's
Yeah, but,
like,
I mean, the crazy thing is, like, I was saying this actually under that Sony tweet. I was like, if he just didn't do steroids, I guarantee he'd be jacked anyway.
oh yeah,
Like, the
oh
dude's
yeah.
in good shape. Like, he would be a muscular, very healthy looking man who would still inspire millions of young kids, I guess.
And would still be bright red every day.
Yeah, it's so crazy. But it also speaks to people who are like that, who go that route, probably have an insane amount of insecurity.
Mhm. And
Like,
he did say that he was very insecure, which like yeah, absolutely. I mean, a huge part of the reason why people start training for aesthetics, like he obviously did,
mhm,
is because of insecurity. Like
yeah,
the guy looks good for a reason. Like I don't look good in my physique. I also am not in a place in my life where I can train for aesthetics. I have to lift 500-pound treadmills every almost every day.
yeah, yeah.
I'm at the point where I just got to be able to lift it, man. No matter what muscles get used.
I've gotten to the point where like, everyone's like kind of joking. Like, I'm obviously pretty into aesthetics, but at the same time, like, I just
Mm,
do it as a habit. I don't actually train that hard because I don't really need to. It's habitual.
right.
Like, I always tell people I've trained like 6, 7 days a week for the last like 15 years.
Mhm.
So I don't have to do that much. Like, it's not like I have any magic workout or I do anything super insane. I honestly don't kill myself in the gym. I probably work out to like an 8 out of 10 exertion most of the time.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
because you're like, you just,
That's
that's the
that's
goal.
still that's still a lot more than most people should be training to. I
Oh,
want
I
that
know,
to
I
be
know.
out there publicly. Like,
Oh, yeah, 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 and that's what I tell people, you should not be training as much as I do. I'm
mm,
only training this frequently and to this level because I've been doing it forever.
I te
Like,
I tell
eh,
people if you're sore the next day, you need to look at,
good.
like, if that's a good thing for you.
Right. Take the day off or stretch or whatever. I do that. So if I hit a day really hard, like deadlifts is a big one, squats is a big one. If I hit that day really hard and I wake up exhausted, a lot of times I really tone down that day's workout or I don't even do it. Like,
Mm,
I will make that a rest day, just kind of judging how my body feels. But that's what I try to tell. That's what I try to educate a lot of people on. Is like, learn to listen to your body. Like, that's
mhm.
so important. Any trainer can give you a program, but if you can't learn to listen to yourself, you're gonna end up having issues long term.
Oh, exactly, exactly. It's
Yeah.
it's a problem. Like, I sell fitness equipment, I also sell wellness stuff, which is
Mhm.
massage chairs. I tell people, like, it's just as important, the wellness side of everything, whether it's, a massage gun to activate the muscles and get them, the blood flowing, a foam roller to be able to, get the blood flowing that way, or a massage chair to just do basically everything that you need. You gotta actually look at that if you're looking to train hard. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you're a busy man, Dr. Tsai. I'm not trying to keep you, I'm not trying to keep you for too long. Is there any last words you'd like to get in? Anything that you'd like to plug?
Um, no, I mean, I appreciate you having me on again. It's good to have a conversation again with you. Always enjoy it. If anyone wants to follow me, just hit me up on my socials. I'm most active on Twitter, so it's at Dr. Jordan Tsai. Mostly gaming, fitness, a little bit of shit posting. But I appreciate you having me again. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything Dr. Tsai will be linked down in the descriptions below. You can find this episode tomorrow on, or today, I guess, if you're listening to it after Thursday, December 8th. You can find it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and maybe other places. I don't remember where all we're on, to be honest. But yeah, this will be the first Dr. Sai episode that goes on our audio platforms, which super
Cool.
excited about. Sorry that Jason couldn't be here. He was the one that was
Hey,
keeping our production quality up.
yeah,
I'm just here with the the Discord and a nice little camera there. But
no worries,
yeah,
no worries.
hey, I appreciate you so much. You are quite literally the person that I look up to the most and love talking to the most. So
I appreciate it.
so yeah, with that being said, I'm not Jason. I don't have fancy credits, but roll clones.